Good morning students. Welcome to Department of Anatomy at SRTR Medical College, Ambajogai. In the previous lecture, we have seen about the cerebral hemisphere, about its external features, different lobes of cerebral hemisphere and sulci gyri of cerebral hemisphere. Today we will see about functional areas of cerebral cortex. We know the cerebral cortex means outer surface of the cerebral hemisphere. It is covered by layer of grey matter and that is called as cerebral cortex, and various functional areas they are present in this cerebral cortex like the sensory area, motor area. So today we will see about various functional areas of cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex has many areas that have been assigned to perform specific functions. These areas are described in reference to sulci and gyri. These areas, that is, these functional areas of cerebral cortex are different in structure and functions. So many workers tried to map out the cortical areas of cerebral cortex based on their structure and functions. But the best known scheme or the best known classification of these functional areas, that is the Brodmann's classification or Brodmann's area. So this Brodmann mapped the cerebral cortex in 47 functional areas, and they are named or they are indicated by numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. So types of functional areas in cerebral cortex. There are main three types of areas, that is motor area, sensory area and association area. So this motor area of the cerebral cortex, that is functional area. So these functional motor areas are responsible for contraction of skeletal muscles on electrical stimulation of the contralateral side. An example of this area, that is the precentral gyrus. And this area, motor area, it gives origin to projection fibers to the brainstem and spinal cord, that is the corticospinal fibers, corticonuclear fibers. Then second area, functional area, is the sensory area, and these sensory areas, they are concerned with perception of general sensation like the exteroceptive sensations, proprioceptive, that is pain, touch, temperature, then proprioceptive sensations, and the spatial sensations, that is like hearing, sensation of vision, sensation of taste, sensation of smell and equilibrium. These sensory areas receive the afferent fibers from the thalamic nuclei in which major sensory tracts terminate. And you know this, in the thalamus, that is a major sensory tracts terminate like the medial lemniscus, spinal lemniscus, then where optic tract, auditory pathway, they terminate in this thalamic nuclei, and this thalamic nuclei, they terminate in the sensory areas of cerebral cortex, and there is the perception of that sensation at conscious level. Example of this sensory area is the postcentral gyrus, that is the perception of the exteroceptive and proprioceptive sensations, visual sensory cortex and the auditory sensory cortex. Then third type of functional area is the association area, and these association areas, they are not concerned with motor or sensory function, but they have more important associative, integrative and cognitive functions, and that is to integrate various types of sensory information and to direct behavior, communications and intellectual. This association area, it occupies about 70 to 75% of total area of cerebral cortex in human. So first we will see about motor area, and in that first we will see about this primary motor area. Now when you study any area, that may be sensory area, motor area or association area, if you study that area under some points, then it is very easy to remember these areas and also very easy to write in your examination, because many times short notes they are asked on these functional areas of cerebral cortex. So any area that is described or that is studied under these points, and these are the first point, that is the area number. Area number means that is the Brodmann's area number. Then location of that area, structure of that area, connections of that area, representation of body in that functional area, and this representation of body, it is important in case of primary motor area and the primary sensory area. Then functions of that functional area, and the last point, that is the clinical anatomy of that functional area. So if you study that or if we learn that functional area under these points, then it is very easy to remember and understand these areas. So first we will see about this primary motor area. So first point, that is the area number, and this area number is the Brodmann's area number 4. So this Brodmann's area number 4, it is the primary motor area. Location of that area, it is present in precentral gyrus on the superolateral surface, and now you know about this precentral gyrus, and on the medial surface in paracentral lobule anterior to the central sulcus. So this is the superolateral aspect of cerebral hemisphere, which shows different functional areas, and on this, that is in front of that central sulcus, there is the precentral gyrus, and this is the area number 4, that is the primary motor area, which is present in the precentral gyrus on the superolateral surface. On the medial surface, it is present in the paracentral lobule in front of central sulcus, that is the area number 4. Then structure of that area. So before structure, we will see in short about, that is the structure of cerebral cortex. So this cerebral cortex, it is made up of 6 layers. From outer to inner side, that is the molecular layer, then outer granular layer, outer pyramidal cell layer, inner granular layer, inner pyramidal cell layer, and the innermost layer, that is the polymorphic layer, and deep to this polymorphic layer there is the layer of white matter. So this is the structure of that cerebral cortex. It is made up of these 6 layers. In case of sensory cortex, these granular layers, they are thick, and pyramidal cell layers, they are thin. That means granular cells, they are present in large amount, and pyramidal cells, they are present in less amount. Opposite to in the motor area, in motor areas, these pyramidal cell layers, they are thicker, and these granular cell layers, they are thin. So these motor areas, structurally they are called as agranular structure. That agranular means, that is the granular cells, they are present in minimum amount, and the pyramidal cells, they are present in large amount. And in case of sensory areas, that is called as granular cortex, and in that this granular cell layers, that is outer and inner granular cell layers, they are thicker, and these pyramidal cell layers, they are thin. So structure of this primary motor area, structurally it belongs to agranular cortex. Agranular cortex means, that is the pyramidal cell layers are thicker, and granular cell layers, they are shallow or thin. These pyramidal cells, they are predominant, and presence of giant pyramidal cells, and these cells, they are called as bed cells. That is the characteristic feature of this primary motor area. These bed cells, they are the larger pyramidal cells. They are having size about 100 to 120 micron, and they are mainly present in the posterior part of this primary motor area. And these bed cells, they use about 40% fibers of this corticospinal fibers, and in this area, these granular cells are very few, because it is the agranular type of cortex. Then next point, that is the connection of this area. That means it receives fibers, that is the afferents, and it gives rise to fibers, and that is the efferents. So afferents to this area, that mainly from the thalamus, and from the thalamus, that is the ventral lateral nucleus of thalamus, and this ventral lateral nucleus of thalamus, it receives fibers from the cerebellum, and the cerebellum, it is connected to this cerebrum through this ventral lateral nucleus. So main afferents to this area, ventral lateral nucleus of thalamus, then sensory cortex, and the other areas of cortex of the same site through the association fibers, and it also receives fibers from the opposite cerebral hemisphere through the commissural fibers. So these are the afferents of this area. Then efferents, it gives rise to corticospinal fibers, corticonuclear fibers, and 40% of corticospinal fibers, they arise from these bed cells. So these are the efferents of this area. That means it gives rise to corticospinal and corticonuclear fibers. Then representation of body. That is, in this area, that body is represented upside down. That means head, it is present in the lower part. Then in this area, that is area for the muscle movements in the cortex, is directly proportional to the skill of the activity and not the size of muscle. So the muscles of lip, tongue, pharynx, larynx and extraocular muscles and the muscles of hand, as though they are small muscles but they are responsible for skillful activity, so area for these muscles it is larger than the muscles of trunk and muscles of lower limb, in which muscles are large but they are responsible for the coarse movements. So area for these muscles in the cerebral cortex it is small, and the area for these muscles which are responsible for skillful activities it is larger. This diagram it shows motor representation of the body in the precentral gyrus. So this is the superolateral surface. In its lower part, that is the swallowing function, that is the muscles of mastication and pharynx, they are present in its lower part. Then muscles of tongue, jaw, then muscles of the larynx, then muscles of face, then fingers of hand, then wrist, elbow, shoulder, trunk, hip and thighs. So up to the thighs they are present on the superolateral surface. Then leg, foot, toes and the perineum, they are represented in the paracentral lobule on the medial surface. So body it is represented upside down, means head it is present in the lower part and that lower extremity it is present in the upper part and on the medial surface. Then functions of this area. Primary motor area, it initiates and controls the contraction of skeletal muscles of the opposite side of the body, that is particularly the limb. It also controls movements of muscles of upper part of face, tongue, larynx, pharynx and axial musculature of the same side of the body. So it controls opposite side of the limb muscles, and also it controls muscles of face, tongue, larynx, pharynx and the axial muscles of the same side. That is about the functions. Then clinical anatomy of this primary motor area. Lesions of this area due to trauma, tumor or vascular lesions leads to spastic paralysis of opposite half of body, that is the hemiplegia, but the muscles of mastication, larynx, pharynx, upper face and extraocular muscles, they are spared as they are represented bilaterally. Then also there is one condition that is called as Jacksonian fits, and in this condition these are the focal convulsive movements due to abnormal excitation of neurons in area number 4, that is the primary motor area, due to tumors or irritants in the primary motor cortex. So this is about the clinical anatomy, and this is about the primary motor area. The next area is premotor area, and as its name, that is the premotor area, means it is present pre to the motor area, that is it is present in front or anterior to the motor area. So first point, area number, that is the Brodmann's area number 6. Location of this area, it is present in the posterior part of superior, middle and inferior frontal gyria in front of the primary motor area, that is the area number 4, and it is also present on the medial surface in front of area number 4. Structure of this premotor area, it is a granular cortex, but the bed cells they are absent. In this diagram, this is the superolateral aspect of cerebral hemisphere. You can see here there is the in front of this area number 4, that is the primary motor area, there is the area number 6 and that is the premotor area. Connections of this area: afferents, it receives fibers from the thalamus, and that is particularly from the ventral anterior nucleus of thalamus, and this ventral anterior nucleus of thalamus it receives many fibers from the basal ganglia, and thus through this nucleus, this basal ganglia, it is connected with this cerebral cortex. Then it also receives fibers from the sensory cortex. Efferents of this area, it gives rise to corticospinal fibers, corticonuclear fibers and corticoreticular fibers. It also gives rise to fibers to the area number 4 and the supplementary motor area. Functions of this premotor area: This premotor area, it is responsible for successful performance of the voluntary activity. That is, it coordinates the activity of area number 4 to execute the skillful, precise, regular voluntary movements. So this premotor area, it is mainly responsible for to give the steadiness and the coordination for that skillful activity. On the basis of past experience, it is responsible for programming the intended movements of area number 4 and controlling the movements in progress. And this premotor area, it forms one of the main cortical center for the extrapyramidal system, and as it forms the center for the extrapyramidal system, it gives rise to fibers like the corticorubral fibers, cortico-olivary fibers and corticonigral fibers. This is about the functions of this area. Then clinical anatomy of this area. Lesions to premotor area leads to inability to perform purposive skillful voluntary movements, and that condition in which skillful movements, inability to do the skillful movements, that is called as apraxia, and the condition in which inability to write, as this writing it is the skillful activity, so inability to write, that condition is called as agraphia. So this is about the clinical anatomy. The next area is the prefrontal area. Area number, that is the broad ones, area number 9, 10, 11 and 12. Location, that is the part of the frontal lobe anterior to the motor and premotor area, it is occupied by this prefrontal area. This prefrontal area, it is the association area. It is not motor, it is not sensory, but it is the association area. So it is present on superolateral surface in the parts of superior frontal gyrus, middle frontal gyrus and inferior frontal gyrus. On the inferior surface, it is present in the orbital gyri, and on the medial surface, it occupies the medial most part of frontal gyrus, that is most of the medial frontal gyrus and the anterior part of cingulate gyrus. This prefrontal area, it is highly developed in human brain. This superolateral surface, it shows, that is the prefrontal area, that is 9, 10, 11 and 12. So which occupies this anterior part of this frontal lobe on the superolateral surface. On the medial surface, it occupies the most of the part of that medial frontal gyrus, that is the area number 9, 10, 11 and 12, and also anterior part of the cingulate gyrus, it is included in this area, and the inferior surface, it occupies the orbital gyri. Then connections of this area, it mainly receives fibers from the dorsomedial nucleus of thalamus, hypothalamus, corpus striatum and the limbic system, and all these structures, they are connected with this prefrontal area reciprocally, means it receives fibers from these structures and also it gives rise to fibers to these structures, that is the dorsomedial nucleus of thalamus, hypothalamus, corpus striatum and limbic system. It also receives afferents from the sensory association areas, that is the general sensory association area, visual sensory association area and the auditory sensory association area. And through the frontopontine fibers, that is this prefrontal cortex, it gives rise to origin to this frontopontine fibers, and you know these frontopontine fibers, they relay in the pontine nuclei which are present in the basilar part of pons, and through this frontopontine fibers, it is connected with the cerebellum, that is through the frontopontocerebellar pathway. Then functions of this prefrontal area. So functionally, it acts as a association cortex, and since it has a connection with all sensory association areas, therefore it is concerned for, or it is responsible for, that is, it is the storehouse of all past experiences. That means it stores all past experiences, means that area it is responsible for memory. It controls the behavior based on judgment and foresight. Through its connection with the limbic system, it helps to develop the personality of a person. Then it is also concerned with the depth of emotions, that is the depth of feelings, and also for the social, moral and ethical awareness. This prefrontal area, it is essential for abstract thinking, mature judgment, concentration, orientation and the tactfulness. And one can distinguish between right and wrong, pleasure and displeasure with an intact prefrontal cortex. So this prefrontal cortex, as it is the association area, it is mainly responsible for that associative function, integrative function and the cognitive function. Then clinical anatomy of this prefrontal area. Bilateral destruction of prefrontal cortex due to trauma or tumors result in profound change in the personality of the person. There is loss of concentration, initiative and the judgment. Social behavior is affected, and the patients with tumors of prefrontal cortex or with atrophy of prefrontal cortex have symptoms which are mostly mental, with lack of sense of responsibility in personal affairs, vulgarity in speech, clownish in behavior and feeling of euphoria. So this is the clinical anatomy of that prefrontal area, and this is about the prefrontal area. So these are the areas in the which are present in the frontal lobe. Now we will see about this primary sensory area which is present in the parietal lobe. So primary sensory area, or it is also called as primary somatic sensory area. Area number, Brodmann's area number 312. Location of this area, it is present in postcentral gyrus on superolateral surface and on the medial surface in paracentral lobule posterior to the central sulcus. This diagram, that is the superolateral aspect of this cerebral hemisphere. Behind the primary motor area which is present in pre-central gyrus, there is the post-central gyrus which is present posterior to this central sulcus, that is the post-central gyrus, and that is called as primary sensory area, and that is the area number 312. Then it is also present on the medial surface in the paracentral lobule posterior to this primary motor area, that is posterior to this central sulcus, that is the area number 312. Structure of this area, it is granular type of cortex, and as it is the sensory cortex, granular cells, they are present in large amount, so it is the granular type of cortex. Second and fourth layers, they are well formed because they are formed by these granular cells. Pyramidal cell layers are shallow and the bed cells are absent. Connections of this primary sensory area, afferents. It receives afferents from the thalamus, and that is mainly from the ventral posterolateral and the ventral posteromedial nucleus. And you know this ventral posterolateral nucleus, it receives medial lemniscus and the spinal lemniscus, and this ventral posteromedial nucleus, it receives, that is the trigeminothalamic tract and the solitariothalamic tract, and these nuclei, they project to this primary sensory area. Efferents of this area, that is the motor cortex, it gives efferents to the motor cortex, and also it gives corticospinal, corticonuclear, corticoreticular fibers. Representation of the body in the cerebral cortex or in this primary sensory area, it is same as that of the upside down, and the area for the muscle in cortex is directly proportional to the scale of the activity and not the size of the muscle, as same that of the primary motor area. This diagram, it shows, that is the representation of the body in the cerebral cortex or in the primary sensory area. That is, in the lower part on the superolateral surface, there is the pharynx, then tongue, then jaw muscles, lip muscles and the tongue muscles, then face, then thumb and the other fingers, hand, then wrist, elbow, shoulders, then this trunk, hip, thighs, and on the medial surface in the paracentral lobule, that is the leg, foot, toes and the genitalia, they are represented on this medial surface. Function of this area, area number 3, which is present in the anterior part of that postcentral gyrus. It receives exteroceptive sensation, that is the mainly pain, touch, temperature. And area number 2 and 1, it receives proprioceptive sensation, that is the sensation of position, sensation of vibration, 2-point discrimination, tactile localization. And this sensation they are received in this area number 2, 1, and there is conscious perception of these sensations in this area. Clinical anatomy: lesions leads to loss of exteroceptive and proprioceptive sensation. That is the lesions of this area that leads to loss of exteroceptive and proprioceptive sensations. So this is about the primary sensory area. Then we will see about this auditory area. And this auditory area, that is of two types, that is the primary auditory area and the auditory association area. So first we will see about this primary auditory area or sensory auditory area. Area number, it is the Brodmann's area number 41, 42. Location, this area, that is primary auditory area, it is present on the superior surface of superior temporal gyrus, which forms the inferior wall of posterior ramus of lateral sulcus, and this area also it extends small part on the superolateral surface. So in this diagram, on this superolateral aspect, in the temporal lobe, in this superior temporal gyrus, you can see these 41 and 42 areas, that is the primary motor area. Its small part it is present on the superolateral surface, but its maximum part it is present in the inferior wall of posterior ramus of lateral sulcus, which forms the superior surface of this superior temporal gyrus. So in this you can see that clearly that's primary auditory area, in which that this superior wall of posterior limb of lateral sulcus it is cut, that is the cut, this is the cut end of this frontal and parietal opercula, and the superior surface of this superior temporal gyrus it is exposed, and here that is that area number 41 and 42, and its small part it extends on this area number 42 extends on the superolateral surface, that is on the superolateral surface of this superior temporal gyrus. So this is the auditory area or primary auditory area or sensory auditory area, that is the Brodmann's area number 41, 42. Structure of this area, as it is the sensory area, both granular layers they are considerably thick. Connections, it receives connections from the medial geniculate body as a auditory radiation through the internal capsule. Function of this area, it is concerned for the appreciating auditory impressions of sound, including its loudness, pitch, quality, character and direction of sound. Clinical anatomy of this area. Lesions on one side produces partial deafness on both sides, but loss of hearing is more on the opposite side, and in case of bilateral lesion of this area, that leads to complete cortical deafness. Then we will see about this auditory association area. Area number, that is the Brodmann's area number 22. Location, it is present on the lateral surface of superior temporal gyrus, slightly posterior to the primary auditory area. And in this diagram you can see that is this area number 22, and this part, that is the auditory association area, which is present on this superior temporal gyrus. Structure of this area, same as primary auditory area, except granular layers are comparatively shallow or narrow. Connections, it receives impulses from the area number 41, 42, that is the primary auditory area, and it sends efferents to the prefrontal cortex and the sensory speech area. Function of this area, it is concerned for interpretation of sound, its origin, source and differentiation by correlating with the past experiences. As it is the association area, it stores the past experiences. Clinical anatomy of this area, lesions of this area, that is the auditory association area, leads to inability to interpret the meaning of heard sound or the interpret the meaning of spoken words. That is inability to interpret the meaning of spoken words, and that is called as auditory verbal agnosia. So this is about the auditory area, which consists of two types of area, that is the auditory sensory area and the auditory association area, and that auditory area, it is present in the temporal lobe. Now we will say about this visual area. This visual area, it is again two types, visual sensory area and the visual association area. So we will see about first visual sensory area. It is also called as striate area. Area number, Brodmann's area number 17. Location of this area, it is situated in walls of calcarine sulcus, that is in the cuneus and lingual gyrus, and also this area extends on the superolateral surface around the occipital pole. So it is present mainly on the medial surface. So this is the area number 17, which is present in this cuneus and in the lingual gyrus, which are present on each side of that calcarine sulcus. So it is present, this area, it is present in the walls of this calcarine sulcus on the medial surface, and it is also extend on the superolateral surface around the temporal pole. Structure of this cortex. Cortex it is shallow, it is about 1.5 to 2.5 millimeter in thickness. Presence of usual stria, that is the characteristic feature, that is these are the stria of the white matter, and so that is called as striate area. So presence of usual stria due to the presence of that outer band of Ballagher, which is present in lamina 4. Lamina 3 and 5 are very narrow, which are made up of, that is the pyramidal cells, as it is the sensory area. So these 3 and 5 layers, they are very narrow and contains very small pyramidal cells. Layer 4 is thicker than the layer 2 due to the band of that Ballagher, or that is the due to that usual stria. This cortex, it contains huge amount of granule cells. About 1/10 of total granule cells in the cortex, they are present in this visual sensory area, that is the 1/10 part of this granule cells in the cortex, it is present in this visual sensory area. Lamina 5 consist of large cells and they are called as minor cells, which are present in single row. Connections of this area, it receives fibers from the lateral geniculate body as optic radiation from the internal capsule. In this area, superior quadrant of retina, that is the inferior quadrant of visual field, it is represented in the superior wall of calcarine sulcus, and the inferior quadrant of retina, that is the superior quadrant of visual field, that is represented in the inferior wall of calcarine sulcus. Functions of this area, visual sensory area, it is responsible for reception and perception of visual images or impressions, and that is it receives and recognizes visual impressions consisting of color, size, form, motion, illumination and the transparency of that image. Clinical anatomy, lesions of visual sensory area due to vascular lesions or tumors or injuries result in loss of vision in opposite visual field. Then we will see about this visual association area. This area number, that is the Brodmann's area number 18 and 19. This area number 18, it is called as parastriate area, and area number 19 is called as peristriate area. Location of this area, it surrounds the primary visual area. On this medial surface, you can see on each side of this area number 17, there is the area number 18, that is the parastriate area, and continuous with this area number 18, that is the area number 19, that is the peristriate area. And so these areas, they are present on each side of this area number 17. Connections of this area, it receives fibers from the, that is afferents to this area, that is the visual sensory area. They are from the area number 17 or the visual sensory area. It sends efferents to the thalamus, frontal eye field and the prefrontal cortex and the sensory speech area. Function of this area, as it is the association area, this area, it stores the past experiences of visual impressions, and it compares visual information received from the area number 17 to the past experiences, and thus enables or enabling the individual to identify object or face. It also concern in assessing distance, speed and orientation of object in the space. This area number 19 forms the occipital eye field, and this occipital eye field, it is connected with the frontal eye field, which is situated in the frontal lobe. And stimulation of this area number 19, it causes conjugate deviation of eyes to the opposite side. Clinical anatomy of this visual association areas, lesions of this area leads to condition called as visual agnosia, and in which person is unable to identify person or object seen in the past. That is about the visual area, which consists of two areas, that is the visual sensory area and the visual association area. Now we will see about motor speech area of the Broca, or it is also called as Broca's speech area. Many times short note it is asked on this motor speech area of Broca. Area number, that is the Brodmann's area number 44 and 45. Location of this area, it is present in the pars triangularis, that is the area number 45, it is present in the pars triangularis, and the pars opercularis, that is area number 44, it is present in the pars opercularis on the dominant hemisphere. Structure, it is the agranular cortex. It is the motor area, so structurally it is the agranular cortex. In this diagram, you can see that is, that is the pars triangularis and pars opercularis. This pars triangularis, it is present in this inferior frontal gyrus, in between this horizontal and the ascending ramus of the lateral sulcus, that is the pars triangularis, in which that 45 area number 45 is present, and pars opercularis, which is present behind this ascending ramus of lateral sulcus, and that is the area number 44. So this is the motor speech area or the Broca's area, that is the area number 44, 45. Connections of this area, afferents from the sensory speech area. It receives afferents from the sensory speech area, and efferents goes to the primary motor area, that is the area number 4. And this area number, by receiving efferents from this motor speech area, this primary motor area, it stimulates the muscles which are responsible for the production of speech. Functions of this area, through its connection with area number 4, it is responsible for production of speech, that is expressive speech or vocalization. And speech is produced by coordinated contraction of muscles of larynx, soft palate, tongue and lip. Clinical anatomy of this motor speech area, that is lesions of motor speech area result in the loss of ability to produce speech, that is the motor aphasia or the expressive aphasia. In this condition, patient can understand the written words, he can understand the spoken words, meaning of spoken words, but he cannot produce speech, that is the motor aphasia due to the lesion of this motor speech area, that is the area number 44, 45. And this is about the motor speech area. The next area, that is the sensory speech area. area number, that is the Brodmann's area number 22, 39 and 40. Location of this sensory speech area, it is present in the posterior part of superior temporal gyrus, that is the area number 22. Then it is present in the supramarginal gyrus, that is the area number 40, and it is present in the angular gyrus, that is the area number 39. And so this area number 39 and 40, they are present in the inferior parietal lobule in the dominant hemisphere, because this supramarginal gyrus and the angular gyrus, they are present in the inferior parietal lobule. This area, that is the sensory speech area, it is concerned with the interpretation of written and spoken words, and as it is connected with the visual association area, auditory association area and the general somatic association area, and through this connection with these association areas, this sensory speech area, it interprets the written and spoken words. All association areas, they project to the angular gyrus, that is the angular gyrus means that is the area number 39, and this area number 39, it projects to the area number 22. It is also called as Wernicke's speech area or the sensory speech area, and this area number 22, it projects to the motor speech area, and this motor speech area that projects to the primary motor area, that is the area number 4. In this diagram, that is the superolateral aspect of the cerebral hemisphere, you can see here that is anteriorly in the inferior frontal gyrus, there is the motor speech area. Then in the inferior parietal lobule, there is the area number 40 and area number 39, and in the superior temporal gyrus, that is there is the Wernicke's sensory speech area, that is the area number mainly 22 and also area number 21. So this area number 39, that is the angular gyrus, it receives fibers from this primary, that is from the usual cortex, then from the general sensory cortex, and from this auditory sensory cortex, and that information it is processed in this angular gyrus or this angular cortex area number 39, and that area number 39 it projects to this Wernicke's area, that is the area number 22, and this area number 22 it is projected to this motor speech area through the bundle of fibers, that is the association fibers, that is called as arcuate fasciculus or superior longitudinal fasciculus, and in turn this motor speech area it projects to the primary motor area, that is in the lower part of this primary motor area, in which that is the pharynx, larynx, tongue and lip muscles, they are represented, and this primary motor area it stimulates these muscles and there is production of speech. Functions of this sensory speech area, that is the Wernicke's speech area, it allows understanding of written and spoken language, and this enables the person to read a sentence and also speak it loudly and understand its meaning. Wernicke's area, it is mainly responsible for understanding or the comprehension of the written language or the spoken language. That is, this sensory area, it is mainly responsible for comprehension of language, that is the written language and spoken language, and this Broca's area, that is the motor speech area, it is mainly responsible for production of that language, that is the expressive speech. Clinical anatomy of this sensory speech area. Lesions of this sensory speech area leads to inability to understand both written and spoken words, even though the vision and hearing are normal, and this is called as sensory aphasia. In this condition, lesion to this sensory speech area, vision and hearing is normal, but person is unable to understand the written words and unable to understand the spoken words. And in this there is intact motor speech area, so that person or patient can spoke, but that speech it is irrelevant, meaningless, and that patient cannot understand meaning of that speech which is produced by him. So that is the sensory aphasia, in which inability to written and spoken, understanding of written and spoken words is lost. Then motor aphasia. This motor aphasia means lesion of motor speech area, and in this motor speech area that person can understand written words. He can read, understand the meaning of that written words. He can hear spoken words, understand the meaning of that spoken words, but he cannot produce the speech. That means that person wish to produce the speech, produce the speech, wants to talk, but the person is unable to talk or unable to produce a expressive speech because there is damage to this motor speech area, and that is the motor aphasia, and that is due to the lesion of motor speech area. Sensory aphasia, lesion of the sensory speech area. Global aphasia means lesion of motor and sensory areas. In this global aphasia, there is lesion of this both sensory as well as motor speech area. Then this sensory speech area, it is necessary for the reading, computing and writing. So lesions of this sensory speech area that leads to aphagic orders, and these are the alexia, and this alexia means inability to read. Agraphia means inability to write. Acalculia means inability to compute, and anomia means that is the inability to the recognize. And this is about the clinical anatomy of that sensory speech area. And this is about the motor speech area and sensory speech area. Then we will see about other area, and that is called as frontal eye field. And this frontal eye field area number, Brodmann's area number 8. Location, it is present in the middle frontal gyrus. So location of this area, it is present in the middle frontal gyrus. In this diagram you can see that this is the middle frontal gyrus, and here is the frontal eye field, that is the area number 8, which is present in the middle frontal gyrus. So location of this frontal eye field, it is present in the middle frontal gyrus. Structure, it is agranular cortex. Connections, it receives afferents from the usual association area, that is mainly from the area number 19, that is the occipital eye field, and efferents of this area, they go to cranial nerve nuclei of extraocular muscles. Functions of this frontal eye field, stimulation of this area produces conjugate deviation of eyes to the opposite side, that is, it controls the voluntary conjugate scanning movements of eyes for the reading and seeing surrounding. So at the time of reading, we move your eyes, conjugate deviation or conjugate movements of the eyes to the one side, and this frontal eye field, it is responsible for that conjugate scanning movements which are required for reading or seeing the surrounding. Clinical anatomy of this frontal eye field, lesions of this frontal eye field of one cerebral hemisphere causes deviation of two eyes to the side of lesion and inability to turn the eyes to the normal side. So this is about the frontal eye field. Then this test area, Brodmann's area number, that is the area number for this test area, Brodmann's area number 43. Location of this area, it is present at the inferior end of post-central gyrus in the superior wall of posterior ramus of lateral sulcus, and this test area, it is located near the general sensory area of the tongue. In this diagram, on this superolateral aspect of this cerebral hemisphere, you can see this area number 43, that is the test area number 43. It is present at the lower end of this post-central gyrus in the superior wall of this posterior ramus of lateral sulcus, and this area number 43, it is present near the general sensory area of the tongue, and as you know, this tongue, it is represented in this lower part of post-central gyrus. So this is about the test area. Then vestibular area, This vestibular area, it is located at the entry end of intraparietal sulcus in the postcentral gyrus behind the general sensory area for face. This vestibular area, it receives proprioceptive fibers from the muscles of face and neck and the thalamus, and this vestibular area, it is responsible for motor regulation needed for the maintenance of equilibrium. And on the superolateral aspect of cerebral hemisphere, you can see that this is the intraparietal sulcus which is present in this parietal lobule, and at this entry end of this intraparietal sulcus there is that is vestibular area which is present behind that is the general sensory area of the face. Then olfactory area. Olfactory area means the area which are responsible for the perception of smell or the olfaction, and area number 28, and this area, it is located in the anterior part of parahippocampal gyrus and the uncus. And you know, this parahippocampal gyrus and uncus, they are present on the inferior surface of cerebral hemisphere, and in this diagram you can see that is the area number 28 which is present in the uncus and the anterior part of that parahippocampal gyrus. So this is about the various functional areas of cerebral cortex, and it mainly consists of that is the premotor area, that is the area number 4 which is present in the precentral gyrus, primary sensory area which is present in the postcentral gyrus in the parietal lobe behind the central sulcus, then visual area which is present in the occipital lobe, that is the area number 17, 18, 19 which is mainly present on the medial surface, and also it extends on the superolateral surface. Then auditory area which is present in the temporal lobe, that is the area number 41, 42 and 22. Motor speech area which is present in the inferior frontal gyrus, that is in the pars triangularis and pars opercularis, that is the area number 44 and 45. Then frontal eye field which is present in this middle frontal gyrus, that is the area number 8, and the sensory speech area, and the test area, that is the area number 43 which is present at the lower end of this postcentral gyrus. So this is about the various functional areas of cerebral cortex, and this is your last lecture. From the 3rd August there will be your prelim examination. Best of luck for your prelim examination. Thank you. Have a good day.